Hello, everyone. Today I thought of talking about red flags in a relationship. So, this is quite important because I've seen that even the so called smart people are getting into toxic relationships. And this can happen quite often, and I've seen that. And so, therefore, I thought of sharing with you some red flags that you can already recognize before getting into a serious committed relationship. Okay. So first thing is first red flag would be the person would be like enforcing rules on you. Like this is how you should do this is how you should not do this. Like from the very beginning, the person start creating rules on you, like enforcing rules, like you cannot talk to this person. You need to block this person. This is how you should dress up. These are rules like the person is creating, and they are enforcing these rules on the person. And this really hinders the person's freedom and independence because you feel constricted and limited, like that you need to, if you want to be in this relationship, you need to become something that you are not. And these rules are not being imposed by yourself, this is imposed by someone else. And mostly these like rules are coming out of their insecurities. The fact that they are not aware and they are not looking and reflecting why they are putting on these many rules on the other person, they just create an enormous suffering and controlling on the other person, and this creates a lot of tension, and the other person cannot be who they truly are. And then there is first one, like creating rule or enforcing rules on you. And then the second one I could say is like being physically abusive, like restricting your movements and if you say kicking, slapping, and just hitting and any physical abuse, I believe like if there's any physical abuse, you need to immediately exit the relationship, and you should not entertain anything in a relationship like that. I understand you might have these reasons, no deal with this, that, but I'm telling you, like if you are in a physically abusive relationship, definitely that is not a relationship that you should be in because it is very traumatic because like I've seen that especially like if someone has sexually abused in their childhood, that creates a lot of trauma. So this physical abuse is not something that you should be tolerating in your life. And I've seen that, I've seen that people just because they want to show something good to the society, they just continue to be in, even if it's a physically abusive relationship, they continue to be in this abusive relationship, which is completely absurd. Sometimes they just stay in because of that they have children, and I don't think these are reasons that you're supposed to be in a physically abusive relationship. It's the second point. And then the third one is the person is like yelling and screaming and very emotionally abusive, very like a blast, and quite emotionally abusive, and then like calling you names and just screaming and yelling, even if you are like out in a restaurant and in the public, and still the person goes on like yelling and screaming and out of around the people. Like these are definitely like red flags that you got to just pay attention to. This is something that you need to like look in what's going on in here. Why the person like, because we could always have healthy conversations. Yes, of course, in a relationship, there are conflicts. Like, that's for sure. There's no relationships in the world where there's no conflicts. Even I listen to like couples who both are awakened, and yet even those people have conflicts or disagreements, and that's how it is. And like there could be conflicts, but there are ways that you could always resolve a conflict in a more healthier manner. So going into the other one, so we talked about sorry about that. So we talked about physical abuse, and then we talked about emotional abuse, like where the person is like screaming and yelling, like in a very abusive way, name calling or whatever going on. And then the next thing, this is something very interesting. If you feel like a instant connection, like, oh my God, this is amazing, like all everything, this, that. This could be a trauma bond, you know. So it's very important that a connection that creates very, very fast is definitely you got to just slow down and see what's really going on. Because basically, for example, let's take an example here. Like, let's say someone had a parent, narcissistic parent in their childhood. And very likely, this person goes and attract another narcissistic person. Because when they are with another narcissist, you feel some familiarity because the subconscious remember. So you feel instant connection. This instant connection is quite very likely if it happens just like that, oh my God, this is it, that I would like coming into conclusion. It's very likely it's a trauma bond. Because that familiarity is there, what happened in your childhood, and you are trying to repeat the cycle. So become curious when you become like really instantly connection. Take your time. There's no rush. I understand sometimes women have these time limits with like they want to have children and all that, but still I'm telling you, like it's very important that you take your time. Yeah. The next red flag, I would say that, like, let's say that you go on to, like, you see the person just mistreating or treating in an abusive way to another person. For example, let's say that you and him, like, the couple just goes to a restaurant, and then the waiter comes in, and then the person, like, something just very, like, let's say there's a hair on the food or something like that. Like you could see, like let's say the man in this situation in the restaurant, the couple, the man just start yelling at the waiter in a very, very abusive way. So this is also like an indication that you are like this mistreatment, it's a matter of time, it just channels towards you. Because how someone does one thing is how they do everything. So it's a matter of time. This just channels into you. So, like, if someone is treating in a very bad way, mistreating, it could be someone else, but If that is the case, be like, that is a red flag. And then the next one is like, let's say you, each time you interact with the person, you feel quite drained afterwards. Like, let's say you have a phone call with your partner and you feel so drained after the conversation. Let's say you just go on outing with the person and then you have a meal shared together, and then like you could be in a very, very fancy place, but after the encounter that you feel so drained inside you. Red flag. If it's constantly happening, you need to be concerned. Why is this happening? You know. Okay, so the next one is like the person is constantly putting you down or demeaning you in a very bad way. This is also an emotional abuse, like whatever you do in your life or the way you doing it or however it is, just the person is constantly like questioning and just putting yourself down, like telling that you can't do this, or like it's just that you feel that the other person is constantly trying to put you down, demean you in some way or the other. Because we don't need demeaning anything, like we need upliftment, we need support in the relationship. And because we, like everyone in their journey, they themselves have gone through a lot of trauma. Some people are on a healing journey. And like imagine on top of that person constantly demeaning, and why you need to go through all that. You don't need to, you know. So it's important you recognize this and just see whether the other person like is constantly putting you down, like in any way. Like sometimes it's in a very subtle way. Maybe how you are dressed up, or like what you are doing in your life, like just to say that you're not capable, or like, like, so, or whatever you are doing, like let's say your degree, and then just put that down and talk about it. You know what I mean? So, like talking about you in a very demeaning or like discouraging way. So, see for these red flags. And then the next one is like this, like if you see some extreme ways, like the way the person lives is quite extreme. It's like either this or that, like in a very, very extreme way. This is also one in like, I mean, I can't say exactly, like it could be, there could be people who have a balanced life, but some places they have extreme. But if you see the person is living in an extreme manner, that's a red flag. Like for example, we'll take an example so you would understand. So let's say that when you are with this person that you cannot interact with, like let's say you're a woman and you cannot interact with any other men in your life. It's not possible. That's completely not possible. And this is a complete extreme way of living. How could someone live without interacting with other males? That's complete. These are like extreme ways, and I've seen these things, especially in my culture. This is not that I'm talking like this. I've seen these examples. So that is also a red flag that you can be aware of. And then the next one is addictions. If the other person has major addictions to addiction to alcohol, addiction to like some drug, or addiction to some other substance, I could say that is also like, I mean, yes, like most of the people have addictions, but if it has gone into an extreme place, like, for example, a person who is like very much addicted to alcohol and they are taking it in a day-to-day basis, and that really affects the quality of your life. So that is definitely a red flag that you got to be concerned about. And sometimes there could be addictions which are not even harmful, like, for example, a person could be addicted to working constantly. But even any addiction is a way you are running away from the pain. So like in this case, you need to see that even addictions, which would be like, because it's very rare someone doesn't have any addiction. So in this case, what I mean is that the addiction has gone into like some level which is really disruptive and to day life, and it also like take away the quality of your life. And so you got to be considerate like about these things. And alcohol, drugs, and these things are quite, if the person is constantly taking these substances, like there's an issue with that. So it's a definite red flag you need to look into. So these are the red flags that I wanted to talk about. And I might talk about this even in the future in more detail. So before getting into a committed relationship, it's important that you are aware about these things, because like becoming aware would make a huge difference. Otherwise, you could waste years being in a toxic relationship, and that could take away your spirit completely. I've worked with such clients, and that's very sad. It's like the complete spirit is not even in themselves anymore. Like they don't even know how to smile or how to laugh anymore. Just they're not themselves anymore, because these relationships just completely took away their spirit, who they are. So relationships are no joke things, and it's important that you become aware about these red flags before you get into a serious committed relationship. And so, yeah, I hope you became aware about these red flags and it would become helpful in your life. Thank you.